They say it's a game of inches. Tonight, it was a game of just 4 feet. 2 big drives, twice inside the 5, 2 huge stops. The Eagles defeat the Packers 34-27. Let's talk about it next.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Ooh, man, I was really hoping coming into the night. I had the jersey. I was ready to be sitting here talking about the Packers and just feeling a lot better about this. But, you know, that's not the way that the football rolls. That's not the way that the tips happen according to football. That's not the way other things happen. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for this Thursday night football here on AfterBuzz TV. I loved the game. I hated the game. A lot of high lows. I'm interested to hear everyone's thoughts in the chat. I know Star Drew, Joseph Boza going off in there. Looks like Charlene just chimed in. So you guys commenting in there all night. I'll be reading your thoughts. You're my co-host tonight because it's just me here in studio. But in the booth, I have a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan from Philadelphia, Temple Tough, Ryan Nilsson. How you doing?
That's
How you
right.
feeling after this win?
I'm feeling good. It was a rough 2 weeks. My dad was at the game tonight in Lambeau Field with all of his high school friends. Shout out to Keith Nilsson. But yeah, really happy. My dad was actually in town the other week. We watched the game at an Eagles bar here, and we were really disappointed by that loss. So it's good now that we're back on a win. I think this was a much-needed win.
Was he excited? I mean, what were you talking with him pregame of being up in Lambeau? Because Lambeau's a field unlike no other, an atmosphere unlike no other.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I know you're from the area.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, what a legendary stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's any other stadium probably in the league that I'd rather check out. It's just such a legendary stadium. That's where football started. I mean, we're talking like Vince Lombardi. We're talking
it's Titletown.
OG. It's Titletown, dude. So, I mean, you've been there, I'm guessing.
I've been there. I went to a game end of December. It was 17 degrees. I took my shirt off, waved it around. Fourth quarter, it was the game that we won leading up to the Super Bowl that year. We rattled off every single game we won after that. Won the Super Bowl. Great season, hoping for the same thing, but obviously tonight's result didn't pay off the way that we wanted to. But lots to talk about tonight. Kind of going to go through how this was like a tale of quarters. In the first quarter, it seemed like it was one thing. The rest of the game, it was kind of something else. Talk through the Eagles' offense. Carson Wentz, high-low. Tonight he was high. Talk about that running game, an interesting statistic to share with everyone. Packers defense, which was so good in the first 3 games. I don't know if they took a vacation. I don't know what happened. Then we're going to talk about the Packers offense finally clicking under LaFleur. Rodgers having by far the best game of this season, even with that last pass. Then kind of going to go through where each team goes from here. And then I really want to talk with everyone, get everyone's thoughts on this challenging of penalties. Because this year, the first year they're doing that, and I am not a fan. But I'm interested to see everyone's thoughts. Again, I'm going to be checking everyone's thoughts here going on. But just overall thoughts. Great game. Thought it was a solid game. I mean, if you're telling me going in a game is going to be 34-27, I'm for that over a 10-7 game. I thought the game was super exciting. Again, as I'll move into talking about quarters, there was a lot of action every single quarter. Green Bay scored 7 in the first. The second quarter, I mean, my goodness, you had 34 points. It was very exciting. And then obviously the defense kind of held in the second half, but very exciting. And I'm excited for where both teams will go from here. Ryan, I know you caught a little bit of the game. Just overall thoughts just on even where Philadelphia is right now, back at 500, back to 2-2.
Right. So, again, it was not the season start that we really wanted with the loss to the Lions last week. I'm really concerned about the Eagles' defense this season, so I was extremely worried about this game. I feel like this game was going to set a precedent for the season moving forward. I think that when you look at the Eagles' schedule, they have an easier ride the back half of the season.
Oh, yeah.
But when you lose to a team like the Packers right now, I think the Packers, for me, are a team that's like right down the middle. I don't think they're bad, but I don't think they're as great as they have been in past years. And I think, we're starting to see peak Rodgers. He might be on a little bit of the decline of his career. I'm not saying he's.
Whoa!
I'm not.
Whoa!
Yeah, whoa! I'm not saying he's bad. I love
just
Rodgers.
refresh that 422 yards tonight.
That is incredible. My gosh, he still got it. But I mean, he's coming off of some lackluster seasons, and I think now that he's got some weapons, I feel like as an Eagles fan, I don't know Green Bay too well. It was an unexpected game, so I'm really happy they pulled out and won. I know we've had a bunch of injuries the past few games. I'm curious about the injuries that they suffered this game and seeing how that might affect them moving forward. I'm thrilled they won. Obviously, I'm thrilled they won. I'm thrilled my dad was there. It's just, I think this was really something I was worried about for the season moving forward. This game was going to judge that.
Well, you mentioned that being an Eagles fan, you don't really know who the Packers are. I don't think the Packers really know who the Packers are at this point in the season. Again, it's their first season under LaFleur, second season that the defense has been with Mike Pettine, and they're just trying to figure out exactly their style of play. This game was so different than the first three games, and, speaking of different than the first three or the last three, let's talk about quarters, because the game started off first quarter heavily just dominated by the Packers. Rodgers came out 10 for 10. His favorite target, Devontae Adams, had over 100 yards just in that first quarter. Last week they said that he had a total of 4 targets. He had 4 targets in the first 8 minutes of this game. Finished the game with 10 targets. That's prior to him getting injured. So the first quarter was very much the Packers. And at that point, I was very hopeful. I was looking at it and saying, all right, this is great. Starting off strong, got up to, I think, 13-0 because couldn't finish on some of those drives, but we're playing strong. Again, Rodgers starting 10 for 10. Everything seemed to be clicking. The offense in the first 3 games of the season just wasn't there. We put up 27 points last week, we being the Packers and the team, put up 27 points last week, but it just wasn't the same. Nothing was clicking as well. The offense still wasn't moving smoothly, and that seemed to be there in the first quarter. I am interested, as we talk about the first quarter, man, a brutal hit to knock out Jamaal Charles there in the first quarter. And I want to talk about this with anyone who's listening in the chat. Please chime in, give me your thoughts, because I thought that should have been a suspension. I was not a fan. Derek Barnett took a late hit to Jamaal Charles, knocked him out for the game, and I thought that was a very brutal hit. And the NFL, as they're trying to really crack down on these things, I don't know how that's not ejectable. He was hit going the wrong direction. He was stopped, and then he got hit. Ryan, did you catch this? I know you were in and out kind of doing some work in the first quarter. Did you catch this hit or no?
I am pulling up a replay of it right now. I got to tell you, regardless of who you're rooting for, injuries are no laughing matter. They're nothing to ever side with. It's always a bummer when someone gets hurt, especially when it's after the clock or if it's a late hit, a cheap hit. You just never can support that. And I feel like in the past few years, the Eagles, they've had like a kind of a family mentality, and they've told each other, stuff like that's not okay because you don't want that happening to your own team. I even caught a play at the beginning of the game where I believe Wentz was running for it and he got tackled, just a regular tackle, and even thanked the defender for tackling him properly. Amos. So never okay. Must detest that, and I really hope Jamaal gets better soon. Yeah,
I'm hoping that he's not out, and that obviously set the tone for the rest of the game because the Packers don't have a running game in general, and then you take out our lead running back, and our second string was also out, so we were stuck with Aaron Jones, and you saw how that went the rest of the game. He had 13 carries, 21 yards. His long was 7. Nothing. So that definitely had an impact. But still, that first quarter definitely seemed to be going the way of the Packers. Second quarter, though, wow, the Eagles got hot. That's when they started their run of 4 straight drives with a field goal. I mean, the Eagles in the second quarter put up 21 points. I mean, that is just incredible. Just for reference on that, as I pull up, the Eagles scored 32 points overall in their first game, 24 in their second, or 20 in their second game, and 24 in their third game. So they scored more points in this game than they did or more points in the second quarter than they did in their entire second game, and almost basically equal to their third game. But a huge game. And I've always said the Eagles, I always felt, they ride Carson Wentz. If Carson Wentz has a great game, then they have a great game. If Carson Wentz does not have a great game, and he certainly did really well in that second quarter, having thrown at least 2, possibly 3 touchdowns in that quarter. What are your thoughts on Carson Wentz, Ryan? It seems like it really is a high-low as an Eagles fan of if he's playing well, the team's playing well, which they did in the second quarter.
I very much agree with you for at least the past 2 seasons. The Eagles can really get behind their quarterback. I mean, that's what happened with Foles, that incredible Super Bowl season. That's what even happened with Wentz early in that season. Yeah, I think they're a second-half team for sure. I think that was a problem for them last season. Sometimes they got in the habit of letting the team they're going against get too far ahead in the first half that they don't even have a possibility or a chance to catch up in the second half. And that definitely got them in the playoffs last year. I think that's been the case this year as well. Even the first game with the Redskins are up second half by 17, and they had to make a comeback run. And that's just never the position you want to be in, especially as a fan, because you're just sweating. You're in the hot seat. And also you get a little too complacent with, like, they'll do well the second half, that's never guaranteed.
I mean, even last week, y'all were down versus the Lions 27-17.
Right.
And, you were able to score with Agholor coming back, but, I mean, you still weren't able to do it. You lost by 3. So I definitely feel you there. If you're down, only a certain amount, you were down 20-10 in that game as well. So falling behind is never exactly where you want to be. But again, they were able to kind of ride past that. 4 straight touchdowns, 21 points in that second quarter. Really, really strong. And that's where Carson Wentz shined. I mean, Carson Wentz on the night, 16-27, 160 yards, 3 touchdowns, overall passer rating, 113. All great numbers, not in huge quantity, because y'all actually had that balanced game, which is another thing we can talk about here, is your balanced run game. This was a stat. Ryan, as an Eagles fan, I'm gonna give you a quiz here right off the bat.
Oh, here we go.
The last time, let me see exactly where I had that stat labeled. The last time that the Eagles had a 100-yard rusher in a game.
Ooh, great question. I'm going to go.
How many games ago?
100-yard rusher in a game. Yep. I'm going to go 15 games ago.
More than double.
Wow.
Your last 100-yard rusher was LeGarrette Blount.
Oh, LeGarrette Blount. Super Bowl season.
In October of 17.
Wow.
And it amazes me, like, you look at that and you say, man, that's huge. But then you look at the game tonight and what y'all did in the second quarter. Tonight, y'all had 176 yards on the ground. Why do you don't need one guy getting 100 yards if you're going to get 170 yards by 4 different people, really 3 different people if you don't count Sproles as 4 yards. Jordan Howard, 87 yards. Miles Sanders, 72 yards. Carson Wentz, 13 yards. So some really strong rushing there. I thought it was going to get there at the end, but I mean, just a very balanced attack, and I think that's where the Packers defense suffered. We'll talk about that a little more in the future of the show. Was just in the second quarter. It was really proved that they couldn't stop that balanced attack. Third quarter, as we look at this, very much even. It was 6-7. Green Bay scored 7. Philadelphia scored 6. Very much even there. And then the fourth quarter was all coming down to that fourth quarter. The Eagles put up 7 points. Packers on their last 2 drives. Second to last drive, you're at the 1-yard line and you're trying and you're trying and you're trying and you're trying 4 times. Don't get it in. Really just hurting you. And then on that last drive to be able to go about it, and you're at the 3-yard line, you're driving, you've used up 5.5 minutes of clock. It seems to be going perfectly.
You also have like a 15-minute injury.
And then you have that huge injury, which, good or bad, hurts the teams, gives them, a little more time to be able to plan that. To talk about that first drive, for Ryan, for you, and for everyone else in the chat, 4th and 1. when the game is within 7 points in the fourth quarter, do you go for it or do you kick that field goal?
Wow.
At that point, it was roughly around 8 minutes left. Do you go for it or no?
Do you think that's... I'm putting myself in LaFleur's situation here, new coach. Do you make a statement? Do you show you're bold enough? 4th and 1, I would have gone for it.
That is the question. Do you go for it or do you not? And you're going for it. With the way my defense was playing, I probably would have gone for it too. I can't hate him. The argument that people make is you're professional athletes. If you can't gain if you don't trust your team to gain 1 yard, get different players.
That's right, Mike.
Get different players. You got to be able to close that out. And they weren't able to do it. I was standing up watching this happen and just... Oh, it was painful.
That's brutal.
It was just painful. If you see it, you're like, okay, you didn't get it this time. It's all right. 2nd down. Nope, didn't get it this time. Okay, 3rd down. Hit it forward. Nope, stopped him again. Incomplete pass. Just brutal. And then you got to go for that 4th down, and they didn't get it. So really big stop. Obviously, the defense of the Packers then actually were able to stop the Eagles, thankfully. But then coming back down, you have that final drive, and just couldn't close it out with that interception. Elena in the chat says that she would go for it as well. Elena seems to be a Chargers fan. She says the Chargers would have beat the Eagles. That's allegedly. I don't know. The Chargers. What's the Chargers record? 1-2.
Oh,
that's right. 1-2. Not great.
I want to ask you though, Mike.
But yes,
I did catch this entire final drive, and I know we were talking about that injury. I gotta tell you, that does affect your offense's mindset.
It has to.
It's a form of icing, really. And I don't know. Look, as an Eagles fan, obviously I'm happy with the outcome, but do you think they were spending more time trying to, they were like, hey, just stall a little bit? I think I would have. That's a stalling mechanism. That's a way to make them really, really overthink that final drive. And yeah, it was a tip ball interception, not Rodgers' fault. I just think that, as unfortunate as an injury was, I think that iced them.
It was a long time.
It was really long.
It was 10 to 15 minutes. You had that drive going. Again, 5.5 minutes is what that drive took. Perfect time control by Rodgers in that offense to be able to really get down there. You're on the 3-yard line, and then it really just kind of takes that to a halt. Certainly wish the best for Avonte Maddox, who's the cornerback who was hit on that tackle, left the game in a stretcher, and the whole team came out. Really an incredible sight to behold. Really hoping that, that he's okay for him and for Jamal Charles, who was injured there by the Packers. So hope that both of them are okay. But yeah, that's a great question. Did that impact him? And it has to. You're right. It very much is like an icing the kicker. I don't think that they stalled it, but I did wonder that on an earlier play where it could have been challenged on that same drive where it was an 8-yard completion on 1st down, and there was an injury, and it could have been challenged. It probably wasn't a completion, and they didn't, and there was an injury by the Eagles player who took time getting off. But no, I don't think that sealed the game. Certainly had an impact. I'm more upset at that because that ruins Rodgers' interception kind of ratio that he has always done an amazing job at of keeping his interceptions low. Last year, 27 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions, holds the record by far for the least amount of interceptions when you reach 300 touchdowns. So we'll see. Joseph Boza, I wonder how much of the blame will be put on Aaron Rodgers tomorrow. Joseph, I don't know how you put this blame on Aaron Rodgers. I mean, let me read for you the stat line of Aaron Rodgers. 34 for 53, 422 yards, 2 touchdowns, that final interception, avoided being sacked a number of times, only was sacked once, and he had over twice as many yards as our leading running back. He had 46 of our 77 yards on the ground at an average of 9.2 a carry.
Wow.
So
I'm kind of shocked by that.
Will he get the blame? I mean, I sure hope not. The defense, who got the credit the first 3 games of the season, definitely deserves the blame on this one. They couldn't stop the Eagles for nothing. So we'll see. Whoever's chiming in from the AfterBuzz Wrestling and Sports, is back to the question, is Rodgers clutch? Ooh, that's like a knife to the back right now. Even trying to just question that is very, very brutal. I have a feeling that's actually Ryan.
That was definitely me.
That's actually Ryan in there.
I mean, obviously he's clutch, but tonight he absolutely was not.
Yeah. So, overall, that was kind of the game, the tale of the quarters. Next, I really want to talk about the Eagles' offense and Carson Wentz. And, we talked a little bit about this earlier. Are you sold, Ryan, on Carson Wentz?
Absolutely. I'm sold. I'm buying it over and over again, and I'm never returning it. I'm throwing away the receipt. I'm locking it to me. I am keeping that forever. Yes. Absolutely sold on him. Hands down.
My goodness. Even with his injuries, obviously he signed that $128 million deal, which could be worth $144 million this past summer. And he's led the team to 2-2. Are you really sold on him?
Led the team to 2-2. Okay, look, he's the reason we got to the playoffs in 2017. He's the reason we got there in 2018. And Nick Foles obviously brought it the whole way. He brought it to the finish line, but you just cannot ignore how incredible Carson Wentz is. His athleticism is probably, I think he's the most athletic quarterback in the entire league. My biggest worry with him, obviously, is he's injury prone. He has never made it through an entire season without being injured, which is a major problem. I will not even try to minimize how big of an issue that is. But look, I don't think he's as injury prone as, say, a Michael Vick. I think he's just so athletic. The dude gets the morale of a team so well. He's a leader. I love him to death. He's the best, man. I love Carson Wentz so much. I loved rooting for him. He's fun to watch. That's the thing. It's been so long in Philly. I mean, obviously, since the past 3 years, that we've had a quarterback that's just so much fun to watch. This guy, I could watch him for hours. Great passion, and just seeing how he gets out of situations. He's shaking tackles, continuing plays. He's better at it than anyone in the league. He's like Cam Newton was 5 years ago. The dude is awesome.
Well, the fact that you're comparing him to Cam Newton and you said that you're totally sold on him, there's where your issue is, because I wouldn't pay Cam Newton $20 to lead my team, let alone $20 million. So I don't know, but again, the Eagles, I feel like, rise and fall with him. His stat line tonight, obviously very good. 16 for 23, 160 yards. Not a lot there, but got that W. I feel obviously in the loss to Atlanta was where he really struggled. 1 TD, 2 interceptions this year. Did okay last week versus the Lions, not very accurate at 19 for 36, still had those 2 touchdowns. And then obviously played very good in the victory that y'all had over Washington, where he was 28 of 39 for 3 touchdowns. So I just feel it's very much just rise and fall with Carson Wentz, and I don't know. It's the biggest issue too with anyone in any team in the league. There's 10 or 5 probably amazing quarterbacks out there. You have to pay the rest of them the same amount of money. I'm not hating on Dak Prescott, but Dak Prescott is going to get Aaron Rodgers money, and who would you rather have? So I think that's a huge thing that the Eagles are facing, is you had to pay Wentz.
Right.
You had to pay him that much money.
Definitely.
So we'll see. Again, that no 100-yard rusher, but y'all had 176 on the ground, did very well. Next, I want to talk about the Packers defense. So well coming into the game. They said that this was the first time since 2011, the best start that the Packers defense has had since 2011. They allowed the fewest points in the first 3 games. Obviously, the 2010-2011 season, back when the Packers were super good, is when they won that Super Bowl. So you're seeing kind of some of the high. Oh, you're looking at the play right now that I was just seeing there on the screen was one of the challenges, which we'll get into. But the Packers defense just non-existent. I don't know if they were tired. Obviously, this is a shorter week for both teams. coming off, coming on a Thursday, playing on Sunday, Monday, really taking a hit. So I don't know what it was. I'm hoping it was just a down game. Maybe they just saw the offense doing so well and thought we need to take a step back. Not exactly sure what the issue was, but I don't know. We'll see exactly what happens there. The offense, though, Packers offense, really clicking this game. Again, going back to Rodgers' statistics in this game, Rodgers at 34 of 53 for 422 yards. Rodgers has not had a huge game like that in a long time. I mean, he has not had a game, even looking at the other games he had this season, 203 to start the year against the Bears, 209 against the Vikings, 235 against Denver, and he puts up 200 more yards than those other games. And so I think it finally started clicking. Obviously, this is the first year under Matt LaFleur. He was coming in, supposed to be the offensive genius, kind of struggling the first 3 weeks to be able to get it together. Again, not making a lot of mistakes, but there wasn't that positive. You're looking at the positives and negatives. Not a lot of negatives, but the positives weren't there. And you have such a talented group with Aaron Rodgers, with Devontae Adams, with Geronimo Allison. And so just a lot of offensive weapons, and kind of was wondering when it was going to click. It started clicking tonight. Again, didn't finish well with that interception for Aaron Rodgers, which was brutal. And then what you're seeing a lot there is Aaron Rodgers on the ground. Again, 46 yards that he had on the ground, was good in the air, was good in the ground. They were picking apart. I still think he's the best in the game when you have a minute left and you need to be able to score, as he did in the second quarter, where you took the ball downfield, 50 seconds, made it happen. And then obviously to end the game, it didn't work out, but he totally had everything in control for the last 5.5 minutes of the game. Knew exactly where he was going, knew exactly how long and how much time he had, who he was going to hit for wide receiver. Played super, super well.
I agree. I mean, I feel like Aaron Rodgers, I'm an Eagles fan, and if I had to pick a quarterback, 1 minute left, go down the field, I'm still picking Aaron Rodgers. I think he's the type of guy who's going to finish that play. He's going to score that touchdown. 9 times out of 10, this was just that 1 out of 10 that it didn't. And
the sucky thing is on that last drive, Devontae Adams got hurt. And got hurt with about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes left. Had a toe injury. It almost looked like he maybe broke his toe.
Yikes. Possibly,
or major turf toe. Literally could not even walk without a limp. So that hurt. Obviously, in that section of field, when you're at the 3-yard line, you need all your offensive weapons, and did not have Adams there, and that really, really hurt him.
I did see a tight end hurdle an Eagles player, though.
Oh,
and
man.
I got to tell you, this
Great
is
play.
Probably the third tight end in all 4 games of the season to hurdle an Eagles defender. I don't know how many older tight ends are going to keep hurdling us. I expect 6 more, because at this rate, it's insane.
Well, the person who hurdled him to, I think it was... Mercedes Lewis.
That was it.
It was
old gun Mercedes Lewis.
They're like, in his 13th year in the league, he's still able to make these players miss. Really, really funny. I will say, before we talk about where both teams go from here, Nelson Agholor.
Oh, boy.
Had 1 target tonight. That should be actually one of our special segments. If anyone who hasn't seen this, Ryan, see if you can try to find it. It was
right now.
NBC Philly was covering a story that happened after the last Eagles game, where a man literally saved babies who were being thrown out a window in a fire, caught multiple babies, and was explaining kind of exactly what happened. And we'll bring this up. Ryan, let me know.
We do have the clip right here.
Yeah, let me know when you're ready to play that. This guy threw total shade to Nelson Agholor.
I'm all set.
Ready to go.
Throwing babies out the window. We was catching them, unlike Agholor. And
let's play that back a little. Let's play. Let's go. Let's rewind that just a few seconds. So he's catching babies.
And he's assisting people down. My man just started throwing babies out the window. We was catching them, unlike Agholor and his mishaps. I like to put that out there.
My gosh.
So Agholor last week had a very costly drop. This week got 1 target, 0 receptions, 0 yards, straight across the board. Obviously, Carson Wentz kind of felt the same way. I don't know if this guy can really be trusted, but just hilarious. And they even interviewed him the next day and said, how is this on your mind? How? You're catching babies from a fire, which thankfully everyone was okay. How is that on your mind? He said, it just happened just a couple hours earlier. That ruined my whole week. Of course. Typical Philadelphia fan. Love it.
Honestly.
Love it. Fantastic. So, yeah, he did not do well, but you didn't really need him. Looking at where both teams go from here. So, we'll start with the Eagles. Eagles now at 2-2. Thankfully for the Eagles, you guys are glad you won this one, Ryan, because your schedule does not get significantly easier from here. You guys have a number of road games coming up. You're versus the Jets next week. Then you're at the Vikings, not an easy game. At the Cowboys, not an easy game. At the Bills, who are currently 3-0. We'll see how that works out, if they're still undefeated or even have a good record at that point. Versus the Bears, who are 2-0-1, at least have 2 wins. Versus the Patriots, versus the Seahawks.
That's a brutal 2 weeks right there.
2 weeks. That's a brutal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
we got the
7
Bears.
weeks.
We got the Bears.
Oh,
I'm telling you,
I
it's
don't know
written.
if I'd count the Bears out like that.
Dude, playoffs last year, anything can happen, and I think they're just going to shank the field goal once again, and we'll walk on.
So right now you're 2-2. That would be after another 7 weeks. So where do you see yourself go? Where do you see the Eagles go in the next 7 weeks?
Let's go down the line real quick. So
versus the Jets.
First is the Jets. Easy win.
All right.
Easy win.
So you're at 3-2 at the Vikings.
Now that's a hard game. That's a hard game. As much as I love the Birds, as much as I just love rewatching the highlights of that second round playoff NFC Championship 2017, when they beat the Vikings there. I don't think we're going to win that one. So 3-3.
Then you're at the Cowboys, who are currently 3-0.
We're taking it.
You're beating the Cowboys.
Taking it. We're going to shut them up.
So you're 4-3.
Silence them.
Then you're at the undefeated Bills as of this point.
I think we'll take the Bills.
You're thinking all right. So you're going 5-3 versus the Patriots.
Oh, Bears.
No. Versus the Bears.
You know, this is another coin toss. Even though I was really confident earlier.
You're so optimistic on all of these games.
I really do think. Well, this is a.
It's a home game.
Home game. I really do think that advantage matters.
Okay.
We're in November. I do think we'll win that.
Okay, so then you're 6-3, and then you play the Patriots at home.
That's a loss.
All right, so you're 6-4, and then you're playing the Seahawks at home.
Again, this is where the bias gets a little hard. The Seahawks, I gotta tell you, man, I don't think they're looking the best.
They rise and fall with Russell Wilson,
Russell
Wisconsin
Wilson
product, just as much as you guys do with Carson Wentz.
We're very similar teams in that way. I do think we'll take that one just because of home field advantage. Dolphins.
So you're 7-4.
7-4, 8-4 Dolphins. We can just breeze by that.
I mean, Joseph seems to disagree with you in the chat. He said if they go 4-3 in that stretch, you should be okay. I think I'm going to go with y'all.
4-3.
I think y'all are going 3-4 in that stretch. I don't think that you're going 4-3 or 5-2, which is what you're predicting.
Maybe we'll have to revisit that.
I think
Sunday Night Football.
We'll see how that
goes.
But I mean,
but really, the schedule gets so easier from there. In that Dolphins win, Giants win, Redskins win, Cowboys okay, maybe a loss. Giants win. It's the last 5 weeks is a guarantee 4 wins.
Yep.
So I'm feeling good about that. It's these earlier games, the Vikings, the Seahawks, the Patriots. The Patriots one, I'm just not feeling good about. I honestly think they can be a confidence booster. They knock out teams, man. They're scoring 60. They have 60-point games. Like that just hasn't happened forever. It's really tough.
Their offense is really clicking, just like they did when they won 17 games and then lost the Super Bowl. So looking at the Packers' schedule, next week at the Cowboys, I think they respond well. I think the positive thing I think about a loss for this team is that they will respond well. So I'm saying that's a win for the Packers, moving them to 4-1. Versus the Lions, I think you're back at Lambeau. I think that's a rivalry game, but we've done very well against the Lions. 5-1, versus the Raiders, 6-1. Then we go to the Chiefs. That'll be the really tough game. Obviously, Mahomes is having a crazy good year. Today, Thursday, Patrick Mahomes became just the second player this season to get a 99 on Madden. So he is certainly thriving. Then at the Chargers, sorry, Elena, y'all are going down in that game. And then playing the Panthers at home. So I think I don't look at this as a huge make or break for the Packers. It sucks that it was a loss. It sucks that it was in the conditions of where it was, of losing after those last two very close drives. But I don't see it hugely impacting the Packers and being like a soul crusher for their season, like the loss would have been for the Eagles. Because if the Eagles are at 1-3 going into that 7-game stretch, yikes, they might be coming out of that at like 2-8.
And you also got to think about the other conference you're playing and those wins you're going to win out. I feel like the Packers, if it comes down to the ranking for the playoffs, you're gonna beat the Redskins. You're gonna beat the Giants, and with the Eagles, Vikings,
the Packers play in the toughest division in football right now. Every single team is undefeated in the division. You have the Lions at 2-0-1, the Packers at 3-1, the Vikings at 2-1, and the Bears at 2-1. Every single team in that division has a winning record, and that is happening nowhere else in the NFL. So very tough season coming up as far as what we're looking at for the division. I really want to talk about now these challenge penalties, which you showed the clip earlier, Ryan, which was the play that the Packers challenged, which there was no call on the pass interference. The Packers challenged it. It got upheld. This, for anyone not aware, is the first time that the NFL has allowed teams to challenge penalties or lack thereof.
This is in response to the Saints.
And this is, very much in response to previous plays, one of them being the Saints. And so this is the first time that they've ever done it. And I hope that they're still figuring it out, because I am not a fan. Here's this play that you're looking at. Goes up, puts a hand in the face, and everyone on the announcer team is saying that should be reversed. It's clear hands to the face. It was a penalty, clearly has an impact, and that was on third down. Long drive, long throw, really would have had an impact getting the ball down into scoring position. Didn't call it. Had another play happen right around then, just earlier, where a touchdown was actually reversed for the Eagles because of a pass interference that they then took away. And I look at these, and again, I am very interested for everyone who's watching and everyone in the chat. Give me your thoughts on these challenge penalties. Thumbs up, thumbs down, what you think. I think a couple things is that, A, they majorly just extend the game. This game tonight, granted there were a couple big injuries, but this game tonight was 3.5 hours.
That's crazy.
Because of these challenge penalties. In addition to the regular challenges, you're now able to challenge these, which take major booth overlook, major conversation. Each one of them adds another at least 5 minutes to the game. You're 3.5 hours. And I feel like you're asking for major controversy because nobody is challenging something that is not huge. In the case of that Packers, if you give that play to the Packers and you call that penalty, that's 20 to 30 yards. That's huge. That is majorly make or break the game. Just like for the Eagles, you reversed a touchdown pass based on this penalty. And that to me, it's almost too big, and I can only imagine the pressure on the referees to be able to share their feelings on a call when you know it's going to be a huge boo, you know it's going to be a plus or minus. So I'm very interested in that. Again, 3.5 hours on this game, which was just wild for me to be able to sit through wild for everyone else. I love football. Don't get me wrong, but 3.5 hours, I think you got to be able to play a game in 2.5 to 3 hours. 3.5 hours is a long time. It'll be interesting to see. This was around the 25th to 30 time that these penalties have been used. We're 3.5 weeks in, just over 3 weeks in, the first game of week 4 here. I'll be very interested to see how many more times they're used, if this will be something that they'll try to change moving forward. We shall just see. That is really what we're talking about for the game tonight, Thursday Night Football. Ryan, what would you say is the Eagles? Are we getting to maybe some predictions, just very briefly about end of the season, 4 games in. What do you think the final record for the Philadelphia Eagles is going to be?
Final record? Oh my gosh, what a big question. I think for just regular season, not including playoffs, of course.
Yep.
I'm gonna go 9 and what is it, 7?
9 and 7.
Yeah, I think
Wow,
I really do think that it's not a good record. I really do think that they're gonna have trouble with the Patriots, Vikings, Bears. Again, it's teams like the Seahawks and the Cowboys where it's a little up in the air, and I think that this win does dictate. I think they're going to more likely win those games. However, I'm just not completely sold on the whole team. I'm sold on Carson Wentz, not the whole team. And yeah, dude, it's these injuries. If these injuries persist, it's a huge deal. And
you only need Carson Wentz to make it through the really hard games the first half of the season, then have him get injured and come back in the playoffs. There's the Eagles strategy.
There it is. But with these other pieces, man, it's these other players that you can only work off of injuries for so long. And it's unfortunate, but I really do think that I'm lucky. We had Alshon back tonight, which is great. But we missed them last week. We lost to the Lions. So
Lions are a good team, man. NFC North. Hardest division in football.
I mean, yeah, I can't argue with that. I think it is the hardest division in football. I just, it's a team that I feel a lot more comfortable winning against. And when you lose to someone like that, it's not looking good for the rest of the season. So, 9 and 7 were how they look right now.
Before this game, I would have hoped that the Packers would go 13-3. I'd be totally happy with a 12-4 season right now, looking at their schedule. Again, when you get to the Packers level and like the Patriots and everything else, you know you're playing for the postseason. So that is the way you kind of look at that. And looking at some of our games, obviously at the Chiefs is going to be hard. The games that we have, later in the season, at the Vikings, at the Lions, anytime you have those divisional games, always going to be a challenge. Again, I think that Chargers game, we might as well just rest Aaron Rodgers for that. It's going to be so easy coming here to L.A. Wanted to go to that game, by the way. Cheapest tickets? What do you think the cheapest tickets are for that game, Ryan, here in L.A.?
$150?
$378.
Forget it.
I was hoping to go as a Packer fan. $378.
Is that standing room?
That is like the high of the high in the stadium. You have nosebleeds going on way up there. Wild.
Forget it.
I will be watching that one on TV. I'll be watching the rest of the season. And I thank everyone for watching and listening to us tonight. Again, I'm your host, Michael Clouse. You can follow me at The Only MC. Thank you guys for watching this Thursday Night Football. So much amazing coverage here on AfterBuzz TV. We have sports, we have wrestling, we have every single TV show that you can watch on TV, cable, Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, soon coming to Apple, soon coming to Disney streaming service, Warner Media, every single one. We cover them. You can get them here, one place. Have an early good weekend.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.